I am Toymaker ZW, and in this video we are going to make an articulated Freddy Fazbear with flocking but without using our 3D printer. That's because we are going to try out a 3D printing service from JLC3DP, so that people without a 3D printer or those who don't want to deal with the messiness of post-processing can enjoy creating Freddy with us. Of course, we will try our best to not do anything digitally so that you can follow the video without any 3D modeling knowledge. So I'll be printing a model that I found online. These are made by King Spinox on Couch 3D, and they caught my attention because they are articulated and also quite affordable. So I simply sent the models over and received this package after 10 days. And I can't wait anymore, so let's take a look at what they sent us. Everything seems securely packaged with bubble wrap everywhere and separately wrapped to ensure no breakage. And here are the prints. Oh my god, they arrive with their supports all cut off, and most importantly, you don't have to sand at all. That is so crazy. A video without sanding? I must be dreaming.
Wake up!
The head details are really sharp, the eyes are nicely replicated, and the parts fit quite well together. I actually ordered some parts in black resin for the joints because I didn't want paint to rub off when I moved them, and they look great as well. No holes that we need to fill with UV clay and no irritating support knobs to sand smooth. That is basically half the video done. The smaller parts are put into a nice ziplock so that they don't go missing, and then we have the rest of the parts printed in white resin, and they all came out nicely. But I know the more important question is, how much do they cost? My order came out to be $73, but that's because I chose the quickest shipping option in order to make this video, which was $25. But you can definitely choose the cheapest shipping option that is less than $10. I also scaled up the models by 1.5 times and printed some parts with black resin, which cost a lot more than the white one. So if you print everything in white, it should only cost you $45, which I think is a pretty decent price for a custom printed figure, without you doing any of the dirty work. One thing that I had to make sure before I order was whether the resin prints would be flexible enough for the joints to pop in without breaking. And they assured me that it would, but it looks like it isn't. Not without some external convincing, which is hitting it out with a heat gun. And after a few seconds, it popped in with no issues, fortunately. So you may ask, why did it take 10 days to print? Well, 3 days were for shipping, 5 days were used for printing and post-processing, and 2 days were actually spent before printing to do a thorough check on the models to make sure that there's no issue that would potentially cause a printing failure. And boy, did this model have issues that took 2 days to resolve. First, the right and left portion of each part is combined into one file, and according to them, we have to upload them separately, so I'm going to teach you how. Go into Mesh Mixer, which is a free software, load the file, click separate shells, and you can select them individually to save them as separate files. The next issue with this model was that the joints that the modeler used are also considered as separate shells. So some of the files will have 4 separate shells that we need to deal with. So if you want to combine the joints properly, select both shells and click Combine. Then click Make Solid to merge them into one model properly. The last issue is that some walls are too thin because the modeler has left a lot of artifacts inside the models, which means it is very prone to failure. So I don't really recommend buying these FNaF models if you don't have any knowledge to fix them. An easy fix will be to go into ZBrush to remove the artifacts altogether and then close the hole, and it should print properly. Finally, we can start painting. Except I'm an idiot and I accidentally ordered 2 of the same part. Yeah, I can't believe it either. Remember when we separated the models into individual parts? Apparently, I didn't save the parts correctly, so even though they had different names, they are essentially the same files. Thankfully, only the eyebrows and the palms needed reprinting because most of the other parts look similar whether they are mirrored or not. So that is what I did. Looks like we can never escape our fate of snapping some support off and of course, sanding. So thank you to all our supporters for giving me a cup of coffee every month to do this every single week. If you cannot join us on any of the platforms, just click my link in the description below to create an account for free, and you will get $60 worth of discount coupons for your future orders. This will help us build a relationship with the printing service so that we can potentially try out their matter printing in the future. Thank you guys for your help. The new palm fits well with the joint, and now Freddy has his mic. But the eyebrow mechanism is kind of horrible. Like, it looks decent when Freddy is sad, but if you rotate the brows to make him frown, they just pop so far out. It's so ugly and it's unacceptable to me. I'm going to have to cut them off and do what we did with our Mr. and Mrs. Potato Heads, which are magnets. To fill the holes up, we are going to use some chopsticks because the resin prints flew off and could no longer be found. But that's fine because you won't see it after the magnets are inserted in. Then we can trim the eyebrow, drill a small hole to glue in a smaller magnet, and then we will let them dry overnight. Another modification I'm going to do before flocking is to trim down this sharp edge of the upper arm because it's really unsightly and Freddy shouldn't have that in the first place. Okay, finally, we are ready for flocking, using the same orange flock we used for Dog Day and a newer beige for his muzzle and tummy. Similarly, we are using Mod Podge for now. I know it's not a good glue and I've already ordered a better one. Hopefully we can try that out soon. The steps are easy: a layer of Mod Podge, pour some flock onto it, knock off the excess, Mod Podge the entire thing, and cover the whole surface sparingly. Spray a clear coat over to skip the drying phase, and this second layer is where the magic happens. Here we have to go slow and flock in smaller parts. Do a couple of times until you don't see any bald spots, then we can move on to the other areas. Repeat the steps until the entire thing is flocked. I really thought things would go smoothly, but look at the mess it has already made, and I've only done one part. Clearly, we have to find someplace else to flock. So I turned on my paint booth and started to flock there because it has like a water curtain and air suction. The second fit went just as well. I just had to fidget a little to find a comfortable angle to film and flock at the same time. But it came out equally nicely. The problem comes when we started to flock the black prints, because the bald spots became so much more obvious when the base is black. And the flocking is getting clumped up the more I pinch them to apply by hand, and everything looked so terrible. Like, look at the differences. You know what, I'm calling a timeout. We need to rethink our strategy before moving on to the rest. The obvious fix is to spray the black prints with white primer so that it's more forgiving with the bald spot. But the other thing that I thought of is to use a small strainer to sift the flock. At first I was sifting over each part, which took forever, so I decided to just loosen all the clumps with the strainer first until everything is super powdery. Look at how satisfying this is. Then I will go back to using my fingers because that's way faster. And using the same exact steps, together with the newly implemented measures, everything is nice and flocked with no clumps whatsoever. But holy moly, look at all the flock that flew off the box. I'm so glad it's not on my paint borders. Now, the color isn't exactly the Freddy brown that I wanted, but before we go airbrushing it, I think it's wise if we do a little bit of cleaning up by getting rid of some of the over-flocked parts, like the nose and the ears. Then it is time to make things prettier with some brown, which also makes the colors more even out to cover up any potential bald spots that I have missed. What you're looking at right now is a mistake that I've missed, and I didn't notice it until later, so if you have already spotted it, leave a comment below. And now everything looks pretty sweet. Let's move on to the next color, which is beige. By now I can flock with my eyes closed, and we are really close to the finishing line. Just gotta flock the muzzle, and yes, the lower jaw is not supposed to be beige. It's supposed to be the same brown as the head. Whoops, gotta reflock it real quick and paint it up as well. And since we are unable to airbrush the beige without affecting the surrounding brown, we will have to hand brush it with really thinned down beige paint. Then we'll dab the excess off so that it doesn't dry up as flakes. And the beige color is perfect. Finish the face up, and turns out his little dots have been covered up by all the flocking, so we will have to remake it with UV resin, then just paint them black, and we can paint the nose black as well. As for the eyes, we need to remove the blue tack and the excess fur, and we can add metallic paint for the eyelids, light blue for the irises, and black for the pupil. Of course, the Musso Black is making its return because I think that the velvet material on the hat and the bow tie should have a different texture, and this black really helps with that effect. But mainly I want to use it to hide the insides of Freddy because it doesn't reflect light at all, so I'm just gonna apply it to areas that I want to hide, like the armpits, the waist, and the insides of the mouth. Lastly, I added some UV resin to make his eyes really pop, put on his magnetic eyebrows, and
he is ready to kill you.
Freddy Fazbear from FNaF flocked to give a realistic texture. Overall, I really like how he turned out, especially the posability of it. The print quality is comparable to the ones I print myself, so feel free to try it out if you want to, using my link in the description below. I would love to make more things for FNaF, like a life-size animatronic head, so please help me reach more FNaF fans. Like, subscribe.
Otherwise Freddy will visit you in your sleep.